I watched my son through the front window of the assisted living facility, and for a minute I just stood there in the parking lot, hands jammed in my coat pockets against the November cold. He was sitting on the edge of Mrs. Kowalski's bed holding her hand. She was 93 and had stopped recognizing her own daughter back in August, but somehow she still knew Marcus. Always lit up when he walked in. He was reading to her from one of those large print Reader's Digests, doing the voices, making her laugh, that rattling old laugh. 20 years old, pre-nursing student at UMass Boston. Worked the overnight shift at Sunrise Memory Care 3 nights a week so he could pay his own tuition. He'd been doing it since he was 18, and he'd never once asked me for help. Marcus, my boy. The only thing in this world I had left that mattered. His mother, my wife Lauren. She died of an aneurysm when Marcus was 5. One Tuesday morning, she was making him pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse. By Tuesday night, I was sitting on the bathroom floor of Mass General trying to figure out how to tell a kindergartner that his mom wasn't coming home. 16 years ago this past spring. 16 years of just me and him, figuring it out as we went. I'm a fire captain. Engine 22 out of Dorchester. Decent pension waiting for me. Decent salary now. I could have put Marcus through school. Told him so 100 times. He just shook his head every time. Said he wanted to do it himself. Said his mom would have wanted him to do it himself. Said his mom would have wanted him to do it himself. I never won that argument. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw my brother Theodore's name on the screen. I let it ring twice before I answered. Hey, Theo. Daniel, listen. About Thursday. Thursday was Thanksgiving. We were supposed to drive out to his place in Wellesley. Bedroom colonial on a cul-de-sac. The kind of street where the trees are older than the country. Theo and his wife Bethany had been hosting Thanksgiving for 3 years running, ever since they redid the dining room. What about it? It's just Beth is having some people over, not just family this year, some donors from her foundation, the Whitfields, the Aldermans, important people. There was a pause on his end. I could hear him breathing. She was wondering if maybe Marcus could sit this one out. I stopped walking. I'd been pacing the parking lot. I just stopped. Could what? Sit it out. You'd still come, of course. We'd love to have you. It's just she thinks the conversation might be over his head. These are MIT people, Harvard people. They talk shop. Beth thinks he might feel uncomfortable. Theo, what? Marcus is a 3-9 student. He's applying to BU's accelerated nursing program. I know. He's 20 years old. He's not a child. I know that, Daniel. I'm relaying what Beth said. She's stressed. The Whitfields could fund the whole new wing of the library. She wants the night to go a certain way. I watched my son through the window. He was tucking a strand of Mrs. Kowalski's hair behind her ear. Gentle as anything. He works in elder care, Theo. Not a strip club. Look, I know how it sounds. Does it sound bad? Does it sound bad, Theo? Daniel, we'll be there at 4. Both of us. I hung up before he could say anything else. I didn't tell Marcus about the call. I couldn't. He'd been excited about Thanksgiving for 2 weeks. He'd bought a new shirt at the Goodwill on Dorchester Ave, a real button-down navy blue, only worn once by some businessman before it ended up in a donation bin. Marcus pressed it himself with the iron I bought in 2009. He hung it on his closet door 3 days early. Aunt Beth always does that thing with the cranberries, he said while we were eating Chinese takeout the night before. The ones with the orange peel? She made me a whole Tupperware of it last year to take home. Remember? I remember. Is the turkey going to be deep fried this time? Uncle Theo said something about a deep fryer. I think so, buddy. He smiled. He had Lauren's smile. That same crooked thing, like one corner of his mouth was always trying to escape the other one. I got Aunt Beth a gift, he said. I saved up. It's that fancy hand cream she uses, the L'Occitane one. I got her the gift set. I had to look down at my plate. I couldn't look at him. That's really thoughtful, Marcus. I figure she does a lot of hosting. Her hands probably get dry. Thursday came. We drove out 95 in my F-150, the truck I'd had since Marcus was in middle school. The leaves were mostly down by then, just brown skeletons of trees against a flat gray sky. Marcus had the gift wrapped on his lap. He'd used the comics section of the Globe for wrapping paper because he thought it looked retro. He'd tied it with kitchen twine. We pulled into Thea's cul-de-sac at 3:45. The driveway was already lined with cars. A Range Rover, 2 Teslas, a Mercedes Gadwagon that probably cost more than my house. I parked my truck behind a Lexus, between the basketball hoop nobody used and the pristine boxwood hedge Bethany had imported from somewhere. We're early, Marcus said. That's good, we can help set up. Yeah, sure. I rang the doorbell. I could hear voices inside, the kind of careful laughter rich people do, the kind that doesn't really involve the belly. Bethany opened the door. She was wearing a cream-colored cashmere sweater dress. Pearls. Her hair was the kind of blonde that costs $800 to maintain. She looked at me first, smiled the smile she practiced in mirrors since prep school, and then her eyes slid over to Marcus. The smile didn't change. But something behind her eyes did. Something flat and cold settled in. Daniel, you're early. Thought we could help. Everything's done. The caterers handled it. Her eyes went back to Marcus, to his thrift store shirt, which he'd ironed so carefully you could see the seams. Marcus, sweetheart. Hi, Aunt Beth. He held out the gift. I got you something. It's the L'Occitane, that's lovely. Just put it on the entry table. Listen, the thing is, we have some special guests tonight. Donors. They're a little particular about, scents. You know how it is at your job. Marcus blinked. My job. You work with elderly patients, don't you? Some of these people are very sensitive to medical odors, hospital smells. I showered. I always shower right after my shift. I haven't been to work in 2 days. I'm sure you did, honey. She reached out and patted his arm the way you'd pat a wet dog. It just clings, doesn't it? In the hair, in the fabric of the clothes. We have a finished space above the garage. It's heated. There's a TV. Theo's mini fridge is up there with sodas. I'll send Diego up with a plate as soon as the donors are settled in. It'll just be an hour, hour and a half. Then you can come down for dessert. I felt Marcus go still next to me, not flinching. Just still. The way deer go still. I opened my mouth and Marcus's hand touched my wrist. It's okay, Dad. Marcus, no, it's not. Please. His voice was quiet. I don't want to make a thing of it. Just let me go up there. He picked up the gift he'd brought, the comics paper-wrapped one, and set it on the entry table next to Bethany's display of white pumpkins. Then he walked past her, down the side hall toward the door that led out to the garage stairs. He didn't look back. Bethany's smile widened. Theo's in the study. Why don't you go say hi? The Whitfields are dying to meet a real Boston firefighter. I should have followed Marcus. I know that now. I knew it then. Some part of me, some animal part, was already up those stairs with him. But the bigger, dumber, hopeful part of me, the part that had loved my brother for 46 years, that part went looking for Theo. He was in the study, on the phone, drinking from a tumbler that I knew for a fact was Lalique because Bethany had told me what it cost the last time we visited. He held up a finger when I came in, made me wait. When he hung up, he turned to me with a smile that didn't quite hold. Hey, there you are. Listen, I won't introduce you to. Beth sent Marcus to the apartment over the garage. The smile collapsed. She did what? Don't act like you didn't know, Theo. Daniel, look. The donors. The Whitfield's grandson is at McLean. He's been struggling. They have this thing about reminders. Marcus working in geriatric care. It's just... Beth thought it would be cleaner if cleaner. That's the wrong word. It's the perfect word, Theo. It's exactly the word. I looked around his study while he tried to find his footing. Photographs on the walls, Theo and Bethany at a charity gala. Theo and Bethany on a ski lift in Vale, their daughter Sophia at 16 in a horse show ribbon pinning ceremony. Their son Bennett at 14 in his Phillips Exeter blazer. There was no photograph of Marcus anywhere on those walls. There was no photograph of Lauren. There was no photograph of our mother, who raised us in a duplex in Quincy and worked 2 jobs after our father died. Where are the kids? I asked. Upstairs. Beth has the photographer doing family portraits before dinner. Family portraits. It's a tradition we started. I turned around and walked out. He called my name. I kept walking. I went through the kitchen where 2 caterers were plating beef tenderloin on china that probably had a name. I went out the side door and around the back of the house, around the koi pond Bethany had put in 2 summers ago, around to the side door of the 3-car garage. The stairs went up to a finished space above the bays. Theo had it built as a man cave a few years back, before Bethany decided it was tacky and reclaimed it as a guest suite. I knocked once and went up. Marcus was sitting on the edge of the leather couch. He was holding a granola bar. The wrapper was already off. He'd taken 2 bites. Hey, Dad, what are you eating? It was in my coat pocket. From this morning. I figured Diego was probably busy, so I sat down next to him on the couch. The couch alone was nicer than anything I owned. Marcus, look at me. He looked at me. He looked at me. His eyes were red. Not crying. Just red. How long? How long what? How long has she been doing this to you? He didn't answer for a while. He turned the granola bar over in his fingers. The chocolate had melted a little from his palm since they got married. That's 6 years, Marcus. Yeah, 6 years. Last Easter, she made me eat in the kitchen because I was wearing sneakers and Sophia was wearing, I don't remember what Sophia was wearing. The Christmas before that, she gave me a Dunkin' gift card. $20, with the receipt still inside the envelope. Sophia got a pair of pearl earrings. I'm not making a big deal about it, Dad. I'm just answering you. Why didn't you tell me? He shrugged. He looked down at the granola bar. Because Uncle Theo's the only family you've got left besides me. I didn't want to be the reason you didn't have a brother anymore. I had to put my hand over my mouth. There's no shame in that. I had to put my hand over my mouth and breathe through my nose for a second. Listen to me, I said. Listen. You are worth 10 of every person down in that house. You hear me? You hold a dying woman's hand at 3 in the morning. You read to her. You sing to her. You wash her when she soils herself, and you tell her it's okay so she doesn't feel ashamed. There are MIT donors down there worth $100 million who don't have the soul to do what you do on a slow Tuesday. Your mother would be so proud of you, Marcus. She'd be so proud of you. Dad, finish your granola bar. Why? Because we're going downstairs. Dad, please. We're going downstairs and we're going to sit at that table and we are going to hold our heads up. You hear me? He nodded once. He finished the granola bar in 3 bites. He folded the wrapper up small and tucked it in his pocket because that's the kind of person he is. We waited another 10 minutes. I watched the driveway through the window. More cars arrived. People I didn't know spilled out of them in coats that cost more than my truck. The photographer's car came. A woman went in with a big black bag. Eventually, Bethany came up the stairs herself, her heels tapping each step. Everyone's seated. You can come down now. Just please, Daniel, don't make this awkward. I didn't say anything. I followed her down. Marcus followed me. The dining room had been done up like something out of a magazine. A long oak table, easily seating 30. White candles and tarnished silver candlesticks that were probably worth a fortune for being tarnished. A centerpiece of dried wheat and white pumpkins running the length of the table. Crystal water glasses. Wine glasses. Place cards. The room got quiet when we walked in. Not silent. Just quieter. Heads turning slow. Eyes assessing. I saw a woman in a dove-gray suit lean over to whisper to her husband. I saw Sophia at the far end, 17 years old, in a dress I'd later learn cost $1,200. Look at Marcus, and look away again like he was a stain on the carpet. Theo appeared at my elbow. Daniel. Come, let me introduce you. This is Howard Whitfield, Margaret Whitfield. Howard's chairman of, where are we sitting, Theo? He pointed. My place card was 3/4 of the way down the table. Marcus's was at the very end, right next to the swinging door that led to the kitchen. The seat where the servers would brush past every 30 seconds. I picked up both cards. I walked down the length of the table. I found 2 empty seats in the middle, 3 down from Theo and Bethany, right between a man with silver hair and a woman wearing what I think was an emerald. I set our cards down. Bethany was at my shoulder before I'd straightened up. Daniel, those seats are reserved. For who? For the aldermans. They're not here yet. They'll be here any minute. Then they can sit at the end, by the kitchen. Daniel, this is my house. And this is my son. Sit him by the kitchen one more time, Beth. I dare you. Her face went white under her foundation. The silver-haired man was watching us now with the polite alertness of someone who's just realized he's at a more interesting dinner than he expected. She took a breath through her nose. She pulled the cards from my hand. Without a word, she walked them down to the end of the table and reset them, and she walked back to her seat, and she smiled at her donors, and she said something light that made them laugh. Marcus and I sat down. The first course came, some kind of butternut squash soup with a swirl of cream. The conversation around me was about real estate in Nantucket, and which boarding schools were still worth the money. I tried to follow it. I tried to make small talk with the woman in the emerald. She turned her body slightly away from me after I said I worked at the firehouse in Dorchester. I watched Marcus down the table. He was eating quietly, the way he eats when he doesn't want to be noticed. A server came through the kitchen door and bumped his chair. Marcus apologized to the server. The server apologized to him. Sophia, across the table from Marcus, smirked into her water glass. The salad came, then the turkey, 2 whole birds carried in on platters, and the beef tenderloin, and the potatoes au gratin, and the roasted vegetables, and the cranberries Marcus had mentioned, the ones with orange peel. He'd been looking forward to those for 2 weeks. Halfway through the entree, Sophia leaned forward and stage whispered to her friend, loud enough for half the table to hear, "At least the bedpan boy gets a real meal tonight, right? Better than what they feed him at the nursing home." The woman next to her laughed. Bennett, sitting on Sophia's other side, didn't laugh. He looked down at his plate. "Bennett's a good kid, I'll say that." Marcus's face turned the color of beets. He kept his eyes on his food. "Sophia," Theo said. "Sharp. Enough." "What? It's not mean. He literally cleans up old people's poop. It's a job. Lots of people have it." "Sophia." "Honey," Bethany said, in a voice meant for the donors more than her daughter. "Let's keep dinner pleasant." I set down my fork. "Pleasant," I said. The whole table heard me. Conversations didn't quite stop, but they thinned out, the way crowd noise thins when something's about to happen on a field. "I'm sorry," Bethany said. "You said pleasant. I want to make sure I heard you." "Daniel, please." I stood up. The chair scraped on the floor. Now the room did go silent. "Pleasant," I said. "That's a great word, Beth. Let's talk about pleasant. My son holds the hand of a 93-year-old woman every Wednesday night while she dies a little more. He sings to her. She's got no one else. Her own daughter put her in there and visits twice a year. He doesn't get paid extra for the singing. He does it because he's a person who sees other people." "Daniel," Theo started. "I'm not done, Theo. Sit down." He sat. "Sophia." I turned to her. She'd gone pale. "Your dad told me at the 4th of July barbecue that you wrecked the Audi he gave you for your 16th birthday. Drove it into a guardrail in Wellesley because you were on Snapchat. He paid $18,000 to fix it because he didn't want it on your insurance. That right?" Sophia looked at her plate. "Bennett." I turned to him. "He was a good kid, but I needed him to hear this. I'm sorry, son. You're collateral here. Your mom told my brother that Phillips Exeter was hinting you might want to look at other schools next year because of an issue with another student. Word she used was altercation. Your dad donated to the chess program. Issue went away. Yes? Bennett didn't look up, but he nodded once. Slow. I turned to the whole room, to the Whitfields and the Aldermans and the woman in the emerald. My son works 32 hours a week at Sunrise Memory Care for $14.80 an hour. He pays his own tuition at UMass. He took out his own loans for the rest. He drives a '08 Civic with 190,000 miles on it. He bought it himself. He bought his own phone. He buys his own clothes at the Goodwill on Dorchester Ave. He bought that hand cream gift for my sister-in-law with money he earned, changing diapers on grown adults who can't change their own. I walked the length of the table to where Marcus was sitting. I put my hands on his shoulders. This boy right here, he is worth more than every person sitting at this table tonight, with the possible exception of Bennett, who I think still has a shot. And you, Beth, you put him over the garage. You put him over the garage and you fed him a granola bar from his own pocket because you were worried he smelled like dying people. Well, you'll smell like dying people too one day, Beth. We all will. The only question is whether anyone will hold our hand when we get there. Bethany stood up. Her hands were shaking. Get out of my house. Going. I helped Marcus up. His face was wet. He let me put my arm around his shoulders. We walked toward the front hall. The whole table watched us. Nobody said a word. In the entryway, Bethany followed us. She was hissing now, low so the donors wouldn't hear. And take your little gift back. We don't need charity from people who shop at thrift stores. I stopped. I looked at the gift on the entry table. Marcus's gift, the comics paper wrapped one. Then I looked past it, at the long mahogany sideboard where Bethany had set up what she'd been calling all week the Harvest Tower. A stacked centerpiece of 3 tiers of crystal coupes, every one of them filled with a champagne and pomegranate seed cocktail she'd invented for the night. She'd had it professionally arranged. She'd posted it on her foundation's Instagram that afternoon. Don't you dare, she whispered. I picked up the gift first. I tucked it under my arm. Marcus's gift. He had picked it out. He had wrapped it. It was his to give or not give. Then I reached out and I lifted one coupe from the bottom row of that tower. The whole thing came down in slow motion. I'm a firefighter. I've watched a lot of things fall. This was something else. The crystal hit the marble floor and made a sound like a chandelier dying. Pomegranate seeds went everywhere. Champagne soaked into the runner. A piece of crystal skittered all the way to where the silver-haired man was standing in the dining room doorway, watching. The room was silent. My son holds dying people's hands at 3 a.m, I said. Your daughter can't even hold a steering wheel. We left. We walked out into the November dark. We got in my truck. I started the engine and the heater came on cold. And we drove down the cul-de-sac and onto 95 and back toward Boston without either of us saying a word for about 20 minutes. Then Marcus said, Dad, yeah, I really wanted some of those cranberries. I started laughing. He started laughing. Then we were both laughing so hard I had to pull over at a Dunkin' in Newton. We went inside. We ordered 2 coffees and an entire bag of those Munchkin donut holes. And we sat in a sticky booth at 9 o'clock on Thanksgiving night, and we ate them all. That was awesome, Marcus said with powdered sugar on his lip. Did you see your face? I'm sorry it took me 6 years, Marcus. It didn't take you 6 years. It took you the right minute. Mom used to say that, remember? She said the right minute always feels late, but it's not. I had not remembered that. I remembered it now. We drove home, our row house in Savin Hill. 3 bedrooms, the smallest of which had been Lauren's sewing room, and was now Marcus's office, where he studied for his anatomy exams with the same focus she'd had threading needles. We made grilled cheese and tomato soup. We watched the Patriots get beat by the Lions on a TV from 2014. Theo didn't call that night. He didn't call the next day or the day after that. A week later, I got an email. It wasn't from Theo. It was from Bethany's lawyer. I owed her $3,200 for the Harvest Tower and the cleaning of the antique runner. I forwarded it to my own lawyer, a guy named Frank Donnelly, I'd known since high school. Frank wrote back the same afternoon. He said if Bethany wanted to pursue it, He'd be happy to file a countersuit on Marcus's behalf for 6 years of sustained emotional harm, with depositions, with witnesses, with a list of Christmas and Easter gifts that included receipts, with the testimony of Diego the houseman, who Frank was confident could be persuaded to talk. I never heard about the 3200 again. I also didn't hear from Theo. Christmas came. Marcus and I drove up to Maine, to a cabin I rented on a lake outside Camden. It snowed for 2 days. We didn't have a tree. We had a poinsettia from the Hannaford. Marcus aced his fall finals. He started his accelerated nursing track in January. In February, my brother showed up. I was in the driveway changing the brake pads on the Civic for Marcus, who'd taken on extra shifts and didn't have time. It was 11 degrees out. Theo's Audi pulled up. He got out. He'd lost weight. His coat looked too big. He stood in the driveway watching me work for a full minute before he said anything. Bethany and I are separating. I didn't look up. Sorry to hear it. She's been carrying on with Howard Whitfield for over a year. The donor thing, the Thanksgiving thing, none of it was ever about a wing of a library. I tightened the lug nut. That's not why I'm here, Daniel. No? I'm here because I watched my brother's son walk out of my house holding a granola bar wrapper in his pocket, and I did nothing. I sat there. And I told myself I sat there because I didn't want to make a scene. But the truth is, I sat there because I was scared of my wife, of losing what she gave me. And I didn't even like most of what she gave me, Daniel. That's the part I keep coming back to. I set the wrench down. What do you want, Theo? I don't know. I want to apologize. To Marcus. Mostly to Marcus. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not even asking him to. I want to say it to his face, and then I'll go. He's at work. I'll wait in my car. He's at work until 7 a.m., Theo. He's working a double. He nodded. He looked down on his expensive shoes and the salt and slush of my driveway. Can I come tomorrow? I looked at him for a long time. My brother, who held me at our father's wake when I was 22 and couldn't stand up. Who taught me to drive in the parking lot of the Quincy Adams Tea Station. Who I had loved once more than anyone in the world except my wife and my son. You can come tomorrow. You sit on my front step until he wakes up. I'm not letting you in the house yet. You sit on the step. He'll come out when he's ready. He nodded. He drove away. He did sit on the step. He do? From 8 a.m. until almost noon in the cold with a thermos of coffee he'd brought. Marcus came home from his shift, saw him from the driveway, walked over, and sat down next to him on the step. I watched from the kitchen window. I couldn't hear what they said. I saw my brother put his face in his hands at one point. I saw my son, 20 years old, pat his uncle on the shoulder. The kindest gesture in the world from a kid who'd been served a granola bar 3 months earlier in the apartment, over that man's garage. They came inside an hour later. Marcus made us all eggs. It's been 2 years now since that Thanksgiving. Bethany did not get the donors. Word travels in those circles, and the story of the firefighter in the Champagne Tower had legs. The Whitfields pulled their funding from her foundation. Howard Whitfield, it turned out, had also been carrying on with Mrs. Alderman, which Bethany only discovered after she'd left Theo. She lost the house in the divorce. She moved to Newton. She still posts on Instagram. Sophia is at community college. Theo told her she had to work 2 days a week to keep her car. She worked as a barista at a Starbucks in Wellesley for exactly 1 shift before she quit and got a job at a boutique. Theo says it's a start. Bennett's the one I'm proudest of after Marcus. He left Phillips Exeter in the spring after the dinner. Asked his dad if he could go to the public school in Wellesley instead. He's a senior now, varsity hockey, applying to UMass like his cousin. He spent 2 weeks last summer shadowing Marcus at Sunrise. He told me on the porch one Sunday that Marcus was the best person he'd ever met. He said it like he was confessing to a crime. Marcus is in his 3rd year of the accelerated program. He's been offered a residency at Mass General's geriatric unit. They created the position for him after he wrote his application essay about Mrs. Kowalski, who passed in March of last year, holding his hand at 3:12 in the morning while he sang her the chorus of What a Wonderful World, because that's the song her husband had sung to her at their wedding in 1953. Theo sold the house in Wellesley. He lives in a 2-bedroom condo in Cambridge now. He comes over for dinner every other Sunday. He always brings something, a pie, a bottle of wine, a 6-pack. Last Sunday, he brought a Tupperware of cranberries, the ones with orange peel. He'd made them himself from a recipe he'd asked Bethany's old housekeeper for. He set it on our kitchen counter and didn't say anything about it. Marcus opened it, took a spoonful straight out of the container, closed his eyes and said, "Yeah, that's the one." I think about that Thanksgiving sometimes, about the apartment over the garage, about a granola bar wrapper folded up small, about a man choosing his wife over his blood, and a man choosing his blood over everything. I think about the moment my son's hand touched my wrist and he said, "Please, Dad," and how I almost listened to him. How if I'd listened to him, he would still be the kind of kid who folds up his own granola bar wrapper because nobody else thinks his trash is worth picking up. He's still that kid some ways. He still folds up his trash, but he holds his head up now in a way he didn't before. He looks people in the eye. He doesn't shrink. There's a thing I want to tell you. If you're a parent, if you got a kid who works for what they have, who chose hard work over easy money, who maybe doesn't fit in with the rest of the family because he came up rougher and earned everything he's got, stand up. Stand up at the table. Stand up in the entryway. Stand up in the apartment over the garage where they put your boy because he smelled like dying people. Stand up especially when standing up is going to cost you a brother for 2 years, because the brother might come back, or he might not. That's not the part you can control. The part you can control is whether your kid grows up knowing, all the way down to the bone, that somebody in this world was willing to break a champagne tower for him. To stand up in a room of strangers and say his name and mean it. That's the part that lasts. That's the only part that ever did. I've thought about that night more times than I can count, and the part I keep coming back to isn't the harvest tower or the silence in the dining room. It's a smaller thing. It's the moment my son's hand touched my wrist in the entryway, and he said, "Please, Dad," and asked me to let him go up those stairs alone. That moment is where the whole story really lives. Because here's what I've come to understand. Marcus didn't ask me to back down because he was weak. He asked me to back down because he'd been trained, over 6 years of small cuts, to believe that his presence was a problem to be managed. That's what Bethany did. She didn't do it with one big blow. She did it with a Dunkin' gift card with the receipt still inside, with the seat by the kitchen door, with the word cleaner. 6 years of small cuts will teach a kid to make himself smaller, and the saddest version of that boy is the one who learns to apologize for taking up space. The cause was small cruelties repeated. The effect was a 20-year-old folding up his own granola bar wrapper because he'd stopped expecting anyone else to see his trash as worth picking up. I think a lot of parents face some version of this. Not always at a Thanksgiving table. Sometimes it's a coach, sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes it's the rest of the family. And the temptation, always, is to let the kid handle it. To tell yourself he's tough, he'll figure it out. You don't want to make a scene. I told myself that for 6 years, and I was wrong every single one of them. What I want to leave you with is this. Character is built 3 ways, and our kids are watching all 3. Decency is the first one. You teach it by refusing to laugh at cruelty even when laughing would make the night easier. Wisdom is the second. You teach it by knowing the difference between keeping the peace and keeping the silence, because they are not the same thing, and one of them cost you your son. Grit is the third. You teach it by standing up at the long table when your knees are shaking, and by letting your boy see your knees shake, because he needs to know that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's just doing the thing anyway. Marcus is going to spend his life holding the hands of people on their last days. He learned that from his mother, who I lost too soon, and he learned the rest of it from a Thanksgiving night when his father finally got it right. Theodore lost almost everything before he came back to us. And the only reason he came back at all is because somebody, somewhere, was finally willing to break a tower of crystal coups for a kid who deserved better. Stand up for them. Even when it costs you a brother. Especially then.